All right, welcome to The Explainer. So, something pretty wild is happening right now. You've got three of the biggest tech companies on the planet, and they're all locked in this massive multi-billion-dollar race to one single country. And, this isn't just your standard expansion. No, this is a move that signals a huge shift in where the future of tech is actually going to be built. So, let's get into it and figure out what is going on down under. So, the central mystery here is why Australia? I mean, of all places, why there? And why is this all happening right now? I can tell you this is no coincidence. It's a deeply calculated, super strategic move that could literally redefine the map of the tech world as we know it. Okay, so first up, you've got Google. And believe me, they are not just dipping their toes in the water here. We're talking about a massive strategic push. They are pouring huge resources into Australia, all to power their next generation of AI. And then, of course, there's Microsoft. As a huge investor in OpenAI, they are right at the bleeding edge of this whole AI revolution. And get this, they are placing one of the biggest bets in their entire company history on Australia being absolutely central to that future. And rounding out the big three is Meta. Now, they might be a little quieter about their plans, but make no mistake, they are making the exact same calculated play. They're steadily beefing up their infrastructure there to power the absolutely insane computational needs of everything from your Instagram feed to the metaverse. So, just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about here, let's look at the actual money. Google has dropped a staggering $1 billion on its Australian data centers. Now, for a global company like Google, putting that much cash into just one country, that is a very serious statement. But hold on, because Microsoft went even bigger. We're talking 5 billion Australian dollars. And that's not just a big number. It's the single largest investment they have ever made in the country in their entire 50-year history there. This is not just an upgrade, people. This is a complete strategic overhaul. And it's all about AI. Okay, so to really get why they're spending this kind of cash, we have to talk about what modern AI really needs. It has this absolutely insatiable, never-ending appetite for one thing: raw power. I'm talking about massive computational power and all the electricity you need to fuel it. A great way to think about a data center is like the physical brain of the internet. Seriously, every single time you ask an AI a question, or you run a Google search, or you upload a photo, that request gets processed in one of these massive, incredibly power-hungry buildings. And check this out. This just shows you the scale of the problem we're dealing with. See, AI isn't like your normal computer. The amount of energy it needs is just astronomical. And that one fact, it completely changes the entire game for where tech companies can even think about building the infrastructure for the future. Okay, so if AI's biggest need is a ton of stable, clean energy, where does Australia fit into all this? Well, it turning out the country is basically holding a winning hand. It's got three secret weapons, you could say, that make it the absolute perfect spot for this new AI gold rush. And what are those three aces? Well, here they are. A massive potential for renewable energy, rock-solid political stability, and a really unique strategic location. All right, let's break each one of these down. So the first ace up their sleeve is energy. Just think about it. You've got this vast outback that people literally describe as one giant solar panel, plus incredible wind resources all along the coast. Australia is basically setting itself up to be a renewable energy superpower. And this fits perfectly with the big carbon neutral goals that companies like Google and Microsoft are always talking about. They need clean power, and Australia can deliver it on a scale that's hard to even imagine. All right, the second ace is stability. Look, if you're going to invest billions of dollars in giant buildings that you need to work for decades, the last thing you want is political or legal drama. You just can't afford that kind of uncertainty. Australia's stable democracy, it's like a safe harbor for these massive, high-stakes, long-term bets. And the third ace in the hole, it's location. It's totally strategic. See, more and more countries are passing these data sovereignty laws, which basically say their citizens' data has to be handled in a certain way, sometimes even stored locally. Well, Australia is the perfect solution. It has Western-style legal systems that US tech companies know and trust, but it's physically close enough to serve billions of users in the super fast-growing Asia-Pacific market. It's the best of both worlds. But okay, let's be real for a second. Building this AI paradise, it's not as simple as just writing a big check. There are some major real-world hurdles that these companies have to figure out how to jump over. I mean, for one, the best spots for all that solar power are often way out in the remote outback. That means you have to build tons of new infrastructure just to get the power from there to where the data centers are. And then there's water. These places need a huge amount of water for cooling, and that's a big deal in a country famous for being dry. On top of all that, you've got the logistical nightmare of just building these super advanced facilities so far away from major supply chains. But listen, these companies are not going into this blind. You don't spend billions of dollars without doing your homework. This is what we call a calculated risk. They've looked at all these challenges, weighed them against the incredible rewards of locking down a stable, green-powered future for their AI, and they've decided, yep, this bet is worth making. All right, so now let's zoom out a bit. Because what's happening in Australia, it's not just a story about one country. This really represents a fundamental, massive shift in the very geography of technology. We're talking about something that could totally reshape our digital future. You know, for decades, the entire tech world has revolved around places like Silicon Valley, right? And the most important things there were always talent and money. Well, now we're seeing a totally new model emerge in places like Australia. Here, the critical resources aren't people, they're energy and stability. The big problem to solve is no longer just finding enough brilliant engineers, it's finding enough clean, reliable power to actually fuel what they create. And that right there is why this matters to every single one of us, no matter where you live. Because if this whole Australian experiment works, it could literally be the blueprint for a greener AI revolution. It points to a future where we can have all the amazing benefits of AI without it destroying our planet in the process. So, it all comes down to this one big question. Is what's happening in Australia the blueprint for the future? I mean, as AI gets woven deeper and deeper into our daily lives, the decisions being made right now about where and how we power it, well, those are going to have consequences for decades. This AI gold rush down under, it might just be the start of a smarter and maybe even a more sustainable tech future for all of us.